Imagine a Texas sunset painting the sky orange over a small, clapboard house where Caleb, a lanky 17-year-old with a quiet smile, sits at the kitchen table, heart racing, about to tell his mom the truth that could break them apart. He's grown up in a tight-knit Christian family, the kind where Sunday church is law, and his mom, Ruth, beams with pride every time he sings in the choir. She calls him her golden boy, the one who'll carry her faith forward. But tonight, after the hymns fade and the congregation heads home, Caleb decides it's time. He looks at her across the table, her hands still dusted with flour from baking cornbread, and says, "Mom, I'm gay." She freezes, then pulls him into a hug, her voice soft. "I love you, Caleb, you know that." He feels a flicker of hope, thinking maybe she'll understand. Maybe she'll see him like those stories he's read online where moms stand by their kids no matter what. But then she pulls back, eyes hard, and adds, "But you know what the Bible says. I can't accept this. God can't accept this." The air goes heavy and Caleb's stomach drops. He spent years praying in that pew beside her, hoping her love could stretch past the verses she clings to. But now he sees it. Her faith is a wall he can't climb. She doesn't yell, doesn't cry, just sits there, hands folded, like she's waiting for him to take it back. He tries to explain, "Mom, it's who I am. I've known since I was 12. But she shakes her head. "It's a sin, Caleb. You're choosing this over us." He sits there, stunned, the cornbread cooling between them. Realizing she's not just rejecting his words, she's rejecting him. That night, he lies awake, staring at the ceiling, the cross above his bed feeling more like a judge than a comfort. He'd hoped for a miracle, a storybook ending, but instead, he's packing a bag a few weeks later, leaving the only home he's ever known because his mom's God can't make room for him. If Caleb's moment of truth hits you where it hurts, stick around. This is just the beginning. Hit that like, share it with someone who's faced rejection, and subscribe to Heart Stories to see how he fights back. Tap the bell so you don't miss it. Caleb's 17 when everything he knows gets ripped out from under him. Just a few weeks after that night at the kitchen table where he told his mom, Ruth, he's gay. It's a Sunday afternoon, the Texas sun's still high after church, and they're back home, her Bible still warm from being clutched through the sermon. She sits him down on the living room couch, the one with the faded floral pattern he used to nap on as a kid, and looks at him with eyes that don't waver. "Caleb," she says, voice calm but firm, "you need to live the way God wants, the way I raised you, or you can't stay in this house." He blinks, thinking maybe she's bluffing. Maybe she just needs time. So he tries to explain, "Mom, I'm not choosing this. It's who I am. I've felt it since I was a kid." But she shakes her head, cuts him off. "I've prayed about it every night since you told me, and the answer's clear. You've got to pray this sin away, or you've got to go." He sits there, heart pounding, waiting for her to soften, to hug him like she did that first night, but she doesn't. She stands up, walks to the hall closet, pulls out an old duffel bag, and sets it at his feet. "I mean it, son," she says. "Find God's path or leave." He tries one more time. "Mom, please, I'm still me." But she turns away. "Not until you're right with him." That's it. No yelling, no tears, just a quiet finality that hits him harder than any shout. He packs his stuff, a few shirts, his sketchbook, a photo of them from his 10th birthday, and heads out, the screen door slamming behind him as she slides a note under his bag. "Find the light, Caleb. I'll pray for you." He stands on the porch, the heat pressing down, and watches her shadow disappear inside, the lock clicking like a door shutting on his whole life. He ends up at an LGBTQ plus support center a few miles from his high school, a beat-up building with peeling paint and a sagging roof, but it's got a cot and people who don't look at him like he's broken. The staff there, a mix of volunteers with tired smiles and quick hugs, help him settle in, get him a job pumping gas at a station down the road, make sure he can finish his senior year. He's got a routine now, school, work, crash on that creaky cot, but holidays cut deep. Thanksgiving rolls around, and he pulls out his phone, texts her, "Hey mom, miss you, how's the stuffing this year?" She writes back, "I'm praying you'll come back to God's way, son." Christmas comes, he tries again. "Love you, mom, you putting up the tree?" And gets, Still asking him to bring you home to the light. Each reply is short, cold, like she's writing to someone she doesn't know. Not the kid she used to sing to sleep. He keeps sending those messages, every holiday, every birthday, hoping one day she'll type something warm, something that feels like her. But it's always the same. Her prayers a wall he can't get through. He starts piecing together a new life anyway, saves up from the gas station, enrolls in community college for graphic arts because he's always loved drawing, sketching faces and trees in the margins of his notebooks. Nights are rough. He'll sit on that cot, the center quiet except for the hum of a fan, staring at his phone, fighting the urge to call her and beg. But he doesn't. He's got too much fight in him for that. He starts volunteering at the center instead, helping other kids who show up with bags and bruised hearts, passing out coffee and listening to their stories. He meets Jess, a trans girl who teaches him how to stretch $1 at the grocery store, and Mike, a counselor who sits him down one day and says, "You're tougher than you think, Caleb. You're gonna make it." They're his people now, not blood, but better. They see him, not a sin to fix. He's still hurting, still wakes up some mornings with her voice in his head, pray it away. But he's building something, a life that's his, step by step, out of the wreckage she left behind. Every day he keeps going is a win. Every kid he helps a reminder he's not alone. And Caleb's learning to stand tall, not because of her prayers, but because he's finding his own light. Caleb's 20 now, living in a cramped apartment in Texas he pays for with his gas station paycheck and a handful of freelance art gigs he picks up online. It's been 3 years since his mom, Ruth, kicked him out. 3 years of scraping by, building a life from the ground up with the folks at the LGBTQ+ center who took him in. He's got a routine, work the early shift, sketch logos for clients at night, crash on a mattress he found at a thrift store. It's not much, but it's his, and he's proud of every dollar he earns, every wall he's hung with his drawings. Then one afternoon his phone buzzes with a text from Mrs. Carter, an old family friend who used to slip him candy after church. "Caleb, your mom's in a bad spot. Thought you should know," it reads. He calls her right away, leaning against his kitchen counter, the sink dripping behind him. "Mrs. Carter," picks up, voice low. "Her flower shop's gone, son, bankrupt after some mess with money." She explains it all. Ruth's little shop, the one she'd run for years, the one she'd point to every Sunday and say, "This is God's gift to me. It's over now." Turns out she'd taken cash from a deacon named Harold, a guy with a big smile and a bigger Bible who promised to triple her investment. It was a scam. He ran off with the money, left her with nothing. No shop, no savings, just a pile of bills and a closed sign on the door. Caleb listens, stirring a pot of ramen on his stove, and Mrs. Carter keeps going. "The church folks found out. You know how they talk? They didn't take it well." He can picture it. The congregation that used to clap Ruth on the back, call her a pillar of faith, now turning their noses up. Nobody's buying from her anymore. Even when she tried to sell off the last flowers, Mrs. Carter says. They've shut her out, say she should have known better, that she brought shame on herself. Caleb hangs up, sits on his couch, the springs creaking under him, and stares at the wall. He thinks about his mom alone in that house, the one he grew up in, the one where she'd read him Bible stories at night. He remembers her standing in that shop, arranging daisies, telling customers, "The Lord always provides." And now she's got no one, no business, no community. Part of him wants to let her sit there, let her feel what it's like to be left behind, the way she left him with a duffel bag and a prayer. He pulls out his phone, scrolls through those old texts, praying you'll find the light, come back to God's path, and wonders if she's praying for herself now, if she's seeing how fast her holy crowd ditched her when the chips were down. He's built something solid these past 3 years. A grown, friends like Jess and Mike from the center, a life that doesn't need her approval. He doesn't owe her anything. Not after she chose her faith over him, not after she locked him out like he was trash. But then he thinks about her hands, the ones that used to knead dough for Sunday dinners, trembling now with no one to hold them. He grabs his keys, drives the hour back to that small town, pulls up to the house he hasn't seen since he was 17. The yard's a mess, weeds choking the flower beds. The shop's sign across the street faded and cracked, swinging in the wind. He knocks, and Ruth opens the door, thinner than he remembers, eyes dull. "Caleb," she says, surprised, "what are you doing here?" He steps inside, smells the stale air, sees the empty shelves where her knickknacks used to sit. "Mom, what happened?" he asks, voice steady. She shrugs, sits in her old armchair. "God tested me. I guess I failed." He looks at her, this woman who raised him, who sang him to sleep, who threw him out and feels the weight of it all. He's got a choice. Turn around and leave her to the mess she made. Let her taste the loneliness she fed him. Or step in, not for her God, not for her rules, but for the person she used to be to him. He stands there, hands in his pockets, the clock ticking on the wall, and knows whatever he does next, it's not about fixing the past, it's about who he is now. And that's a decision he's not sure he's ready to make. Caleb's 20 now, standing in the living room of his mom's house in Texas, the air heavy with dust and the faint smell of roses that used to fill her flower shop. He's just driven an hour back to this small town he swore he'd never return to, not because he's itching to fix the rift between them, not because he's erased the memory of her kicking him out 3 years ago, but because he can't stop picturing Ruth, his mom, alone in a house that's crumbling around her after her world fell apart. She's sitting in that old armchair, the one with the worn-out cushions he used to flop on after school, clutching a chipped coffee mug, her hands trembling as she stares at him. "Caleb, I don't need your help," she says, voice cutting through the silence. "I can handle this on my own." He doesn't bite back, doesn't bring up the past, just grabs a trash bag from the kitchen and starts picking up the mess scattered around. Empty soda cans, crumpled tissues, a stack of overdue bills with red ink screaming past due. She watches him, jaw tight, and mutters, "I don't want your pity. I've been through worse." He looks at her, meets her eyes, and says, "I'm not here because you were right about me, Mom. I'm not here to prove anything. I'm here because I've learned what love means, even when you didn't show it to me." She flinches, turns her head away, but doesn't tell him to stop. He keeps going, hauls the bags out to the curb, sweeps the floor where crumbs have piled up, calls Jess from the center to get her hooked up with a food pantry in town. He digs into his savings from the gas station job, pays the electric bill that's 2 months late so the lights don't go out, drops off a bag of groceries, bread, soup cans, a carton of milk, stuff she'd never asked for herself. She pushes back every chance she gets, snaps at him one morning when he's unloading a sack of potatoes. "I've survived without you before. I don't need you playing hero now." He nods, keeps unloading. "I'm not a hero, Mom. I'm just here." He's not mad anymore. Not like he was those first months after she threw him out, when he'd pace the center's halls, fists clenched, replaying her words, "Pray it away." He spent 3 years piecing together a life, working shifts, sketching designs for clients, volunteering at the center with kids who'd been tossed aside like he was, and it's changed him. He's learned love isn't about who deserves it, isn't about keeping score. It's about giving it even when it's tough, even when it's not wanted. One Saturday, he's out in the old neighborhood, a part of town Ruth used to steer clear of, saying, "Well, those people don't know God's way." He set up a free drawing class for the local kids, a wobbly folding table under a sprawling oak tree, pencils and paper spread out, a dozen little voices chattering as they grab supplies. He's kneeling next to a girl named Maria, showing her how to draw a sunflower, guiding her hand when the petals come out lopsided, laughing when she says, "It looks like a pancake." He's in the middle of helping a boy named Tommy sketch a truck when he looks up, sees Ruth across the street, standing there in her faded apron, arms crossed, watching him. She's got her hair pulled back, a few strands loose in the breeze, and he catches her eye, gives a small wave, goes back to the kids. They're asking him to draw a horse now, then a diamond, and he's caught up in it, their giggles, the scratch of pencils on paper, the way their eyes light up when he hands them their finished sketches. Later that day, he swings by the house with a loaf of bread and some eggs he picked up, finds her sitting on the porch steps, tears streaming down her face, her shoulders shaking. He stops, sets the bag down, and she looks up. "I didn't know you could do that, Caleb. Teach them. Make them happy like that." He sits beside her, the wood groaning under their weight, and says, "I had to figure it out on my own, Mom, after I left." She wipes her face with her sleeve. looks at him, really looks at him, not through the Bible quotes she used to wield like a weapon, not as a sin she needed to fix, but as her son, a man who's built something she never understood. "I thought I was doing right by you," she says, voice cracking, "pushing you to God, but I lost you, didn't I?" He doesn't answer right away, just sits there with her, the evening settling in, crickets starting to chirp, and feels something give. It's not a grand reunion, no big apologies or promises, just a moment where she sees him for who he is, not who she wanted him to be, and that's more than he ever thought he'd get. Caleb's 21 now, and his small apartment in Texas feels a little tighter these days, with his mom, Ruth, sleeping on a pull-out couch he picked up from a thrift store for $30. It's been a few months since he drove back to that crumbling house, since he started helping her pick up the pieces after her flower shop went under and her church turned their backs. He doesn't ask her to say thanks, doesn't need her to admit she was wrong about kicking him out. He just gives her a place to stay, a roof over her head when she's got nothing left. She's quieter now, spends her mornings flipping through old recipe books she brought over, sometimes stirring a pot of soup on his tiny stove, sometimes sitting at his kitchen table grading sketches from the community art class he teaches. They don't talk much about the past, about the night she handed him a duffel bag and told him to pray his gayness away. But she's here, and that's something. One evening, she's rummaging through his desk drawer, looking for a pen to mark up a grocery list, and pulls out his wallet instead. It falls open and she finds a faded photo tucked inside, her and Caleb at a church picnic when he was 5, her arm around him, both of them grinning with lemonade stains on their shirts. Next to it, there's a scrap of paper, folded small, his handwriting scrawled across it. "Mom was once the safest place I knew." She sits there, holding it in her hands, staring at the words, tears welling up, and Caleb walks in from the bedroom, sees her with it. "You kept this?" she asks, voice trembling, barely above a whisper. He nods, leans against the door frame. "Yeah, it was true back then." She sets the photo down, wipes her eyes, and doesn't say anything for a while. Just looks at him like she's seeing him for the first time in years. He can tell it's hitting her, the weight of what she threw away, how she let her faith twist into a tool to push him out instead of pull him close. She'd spent so long clinging to those Bible verses, using them to judge him, to justify locking him out. But now she's here, in his home, seeing what he's made of himself without her rules. They don't dig into it, don't sit down and unpack all the hurt, but something shifts. She starts showing up at his art classes sometimes, not saying much, just sitting in the back on a folding chair while he teaches kids how to draw trees and dogs. Kids from the same rough streets she used to cross the road to avoid. One Sunday afternoon, they're both at the community center, him up front with a marker in hand, showing a group of 10-year-olds how to sketch a sunset, her in the back folding flyers for the next class. It's not a big moment, no grand speeches or tears, but they're there together, sharing the same space without her quoting scripture or him begging her to see him. She still keeps her Bible on the nightstand next to the couch, still prays every night, he's still gay and proud of it, building a life that's his own, but they've found a quiet truce. He's not her shame anymore, not the sin she tried to fix. He's her shelter, the one who took her in when her world collapsed. She's starting to get it, he thinks, watching her fold those papers. That love's supposed to be bigger than judgment, bigger than the rules she held so tight. The video ends with them sitting there, him laughing with a kid over a lopsided drawing, her looking up from her stack, a small smile tugging at her lips. Two people who've lost and found each other in a way neither expected. So what about you? Ever give someone a second chance who didn't deserve it? Tell us in the comments. If Caleb's story got to you, hit that like, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Heart Stories for more. Tap the bell to catch the next one.